You ever have a moment so ordinary it feels like a mistake to even remember it? Like a Tuesday afternoon that should have vanished. But instead, it rewrote your life? That's what happened to me. One walk, one leash, one woman I wasn't supposed to meet. My name's Eli Carter, 26, from Portland. I'm a marketing analyst at a startup that sells smart home devices. It's boring unless you like coffee-fueled spreadsheets and coworkers who overshare in Slack. And this is the story I've never told anyone. I call it, I walked her dog once. Now I'm walking into her heart. It started with an elevator glitch. That morning, mine was out. So I took the stairs down from the 12th floor of my building. Same building I'd lived in for 3 years, and somewhere between floors 9 and 8, I heard it. A soft whine, then scratching, then a small bark, like someone knocking from the other side of the world. There was a Yorkie, tiny, trembling, with a ribbon on its head and eyes like it had something urgent to say. No collar, just a leash wound around the doorknob of apartment 9B. I froze, looked around, waited for some neighbor to explain. But nothing. No voices, no footsteps, just that little dog, pacing. A note was taped to the door, blue ink, loopy handwriting. It said, "Please, if you're reading this." I had to rush to the hospital. "His name is Baxter. He needs a walk. Be kind." I should have left it alone. Should have walked past like most people do when the world asks too much of them before coffee. But I didn't. I unlooped the leash and whispered, "Come on, little dude. Let's see what kind of mess you've dragged me into." Baxter was a paradox. Half cotton ball, half anxiety machine. He stopped at every bush like it owed him rent. People smiled at us, especially women, and I found myself weirdly proud, like I'd earned those smiles. We got back 30 minutes later. I left a post-it that said, "Baxter is safe. He prefers sidewalks to grass. Hope everything's okay. EC, Apt 1204. I figured that was it. One random detour. One anonymous act of decency. But the next morning, a knock came at my door, and standing there was a woman who looked like she hadn't slept, but still somehow glowed in the dim hallway light. Her name was Tessa. She had this gentle way of talking, like she was always listening deeper than you expected her to. Hair tied in a messy bun, thin gold chain around her neck, and eyes that didn't match, one green, one hazel, like her soul hadn't decided what color it wanted to be. "I'm sorry," she said, cradling Baxter. "I know this is weird, but thank you for yesterday." My dad, he collapsed. I didn't know what else to do. Something cracked in her voice. Something brittle, real. We talked for maybe 5 minutes, but it felt like an entire season of a life I hadn't lived yet. Then she offered coffee. I said yes. Then she offered a walk. I said yes again. It became a ritual. Every evening, 6:30 sharp. Me, her, Baxter, and a long, slow walk around Hawthorne Park. We talked about books, music, her freelance graphic design gigs, and her dad late-stage lymphoma, hospital stays, family arguments, how her brother hadn't called in 6 months. She didn't dump it all at once. She let it trickle, like she was afraid to scare me away. But I wasn't scared. I was hooked. At work, I found myself distracted, wondering what shoes she'd wear that night, if she'd bring her sketch pad, if her laugh would sound a little softer today. Then something strange happened. One day, she invited me in. Just for tea, she said. Her apartment was filled with plants, hanging vines, art taped to the fridge, the kind of place that looked lived in, not curated. I watched her move around her kitchen, confident but unguarded. And for a moment, it felt like I'd known her for years. But then, the door buzzed. She paled. "Don't answer," she whispered. I blinked. "You okay?" She didn't respond, just walked toward the door, peered through the peephole, then backed away like she saw a ghost. "Is it your brother?" I asked gently. "No," she said. "It's worse." We stayed silent as the buzzing continued. She didn't explain, and I didn't press. After a minute, it stopped. She sank into the couch and whispered, "Sorry, there's some stuff I haven't told you." I nodded. She looked at me like she was trying to decide whether I could carry the weight of her world, like she wanted to trust me, but didn't trust herself to need anyone just yet. That's when I realized I wasn't just walking her dog anymore. I was walking the invisible path toward her wounds, toward the part of her no one else had seen. And maybe, just maybe, she was walking toward mine. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how her hand had trembled slightly when she handed me the tea, how her voice cracked when she said, "Worse," and I kept wondering, who was at the door? What had she left out? I had no idea that by the end of the week, I'd find out. Not because she told me, but because I'd see something at work, something that would break everything I thought was real between us. And it started with a file with her name on it, and a man's voice behind me saying, "You know she doesn't work here anymore, right? She was fired. Months ago." Felt like I'd swallowed ice. The kind that doesn't melt. It just sits in your chest, dull and cold and growing heavier. She was fired. Months ago. I turned slowly. It was my boss, Grant. Mid-40s, suit always too tight, voice like a file cabinet slamming shut. He pointed to the folder in my hand. "That's outdated. Should have been archived." She was part of the freelance design team before I joined. Internal audit flagged something fuzzy in the billing. "Don't worry about it." Fuzzy? I stared at the file. Tessa Rowe, freelance UX designer. Timestamp, 6 months ago. Payment discrepancies. Account under review. Grant shrugged and walked off. To him, it was nothing. But to me, it shattered the entire storyline she'd let me believe. Back at my apartment, I paced. Was it a mistake? Was the file wrong? Was there another Tessa Rowe? I told myself I didn't care. That what mattered was the person I knew now. The soft-spoken woman with mismatched eyes and too many indoor plants. But then I remembered her reaction to the door buzzer. The look in her eyes when I asked, "Is that your brother?" She hadn't lied. But she hadn't told the truth either. So the next day, I took Baxter out early without knocking. I just left a note. "Can we talk tonight? There's something I need to ask." She didn't text all day. Not even a sure. 6:30 came and went. Then 7. Then 9. No knock. No message. Just silence. The next morning I knocked. No answer. But I could hear movement inside. Light footsteps. A chair being dragged. Then, after a minute, her voice, muffled behind the door. "Eli, I can't, not right now." I leaned close. My voice was soft. "Tessa, I'm not here to judge. I just want the truth. That's all I've ever wanted." Silence. Then the sound of her breath catching. "Come back tomorrow night," she said finally. "I'll tell you everything." That day was brutal. At work, numbers blurred. Conversations faded. All I could think about was her, and how much of what I'd known was built on sand. I went through old messages, replay after replay. She'd never once lied, not directly. But she dodged. She'd deflected. And I had let her, because I didn't want the truth, not really. I wanted the version of her that felt like poetry in a world full of noise. But maybe the real her was messier, more human, maybe even more beautiful if I could just get past the fear. I went back the next evening. She let me in. Her eyes were red, like she'd cried all day but wouldn't give herself the grace to fall apart. We sat. No tea this time. No small talk. "The file," she began. "Let me guess. You saw my name in the audit logs." I nodded. "They said I manipulated invoices," she said. "I didn't, but I let someone else do it under my name. A guy I was dating back then. He was in the department. He said he'd take care of everything." She looked at me. I believed him. I swallowed hard. "What happened?" "They found out. He pinned it on me. He had access to my login, my credentials, my emails. I had no proof it wasn't me, so I got fired. Quietly, they asked me to sign an NDA. I didn't fight it. I didn't want the drama." Her voice cracked. "And that night when my dad collapsed, I thought I deserved it. I thought everything falling apart was just the universe catching up." I leaned forward. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you looked at me like I was whole, Eli. like I wasn't a collection of mistakes stitched together with denial. And I needed that, just for a little while. Silence sat between us for a moment. Not heavy, not awkward, just human. I get it, I finally said. She blinked. You do? Yeah, I whispered. You didn't lie to protect yourself. You lied because you didn't think you were worth being forgiven. Her hands trembled. She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. I liked how you looked at me too, I said. But I don't want to love a version of you. I want to love you, all of you. That's when she finally broke. Not loudly, not dramatically. She just breathed. For the first time in weeks, maybe longer. Then she reached out and held my hand. I thought that was the end of it, that the worst had passed, that we'd cleared the fog and were walking toward the light. But I was wrong, because the next morning, as I was leaving for work, I saw a man standing outside her apartment. Tall, suave, wearing a charcoal suit. He didn't knock, didn't buzz. He just slid something under her door. I waited till he left, then walked up quietly and picked it up. A single piece of paper, typed, no envelope, no signature, just one sentence. You really thought you were done with me? I stood outside her door holding that single sentence. A sentence that didn't scream. It whispered with a knife behind its back. You really thought you were done with me? I could feel the threat in it. Not in what it said, but in what it didn't have to. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time. Footsteps. Then her voice, small, worn. Eli, now's not good. I didn't wait. I slid the paper under the door and said, I know you didn't write this, but he did, didn't he? Silence. Then the lock clicked. She opened the door just wide enough to see half her face. Eyes tired. Voice hollow. He found me. His name was Julian. The man from the job. The one she'd let into her passwords, her trust, her life. He never got caught, she said, sitting on the couch, arms folded like she was holding herself together. He just disappeared, left me to clean up the ashes. I sat beside her, close but not touching. Why now? She shook her head. I don't know. Maybe because I stopped hiding. Maybe because I let someone in again. She glanced at me. You're the first man I've trusted since him. That probably made me a target again. I clenched my jaw. You're not a target, Tessa. You're a human being. You deserve peace. She laughed under her breath. The kind of laugh that carries more sorrow than joy. I used to believe that, before I started building my life around survival. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by her side, sipping tea neither of us finished. Outside, the city kept breathing. Inside, we were learning how to. She told me everything. How Julian used her credentials to siphon thousands into fake accounts. How he vanished the moment suspicion rose. How his charm blinded the company, made her the scapegoat. No one believed me, she whispered, except maybe my father. And now, he's slipping away. And I realized something painful. It wasn't just betrayal she carried. It was isolation. She hadn't just lost her job. She lost her voice, her worth, her right to believe she was still good. That week, I did something reckless. I called a friend of mine from college who now worked in legal at a tech firm. Told him everything. Asked what could be done. He gave me a name. Private investigator. Clean, quiet, discreet. I didn't tell Tessa at first. Not until I had something real. And when I did, when I showed her the printed screenshots, bank trails, timestamps linking Julian's IP address to the transfers, she covered her mouth and wept. Not from relief. From release. Like a wound she'd carried for a year had finally been named, and naming it made it bearable. Weeks passed. Her dad passed too. We sat together at the memorial. Baxter on her lap. My hand over hers. There were no grand gestures. No declarations. Just quiet companionship in a room full of loss. That night, she whispered, You know, I never believed in fate. I turned toward her. And now, she looked at me like she was seeing the answer inside my eyes. Now I think fate isn't about what happens. It's about who shows up when it does. A few months later, Julian was quietly charged with wire fraud. Tessa never testified, but the truth, her truth, was finally recorded. And she started designing again. Her hands remembered joy. Her laughter returned, softer at first, then bolder. And me, I kept walking her dog. Not because he needed it, because we did. Sometimes, love doesn't arrive in fireworks. Sometimes it sneaks in during the silence. A quiet knock, a leash wrapped around a doorknob, a conversation that unravels pain like old thread. Tessa wasn't broken. She was bruised, yes, but not broken. And me? I thought I was just being kind when I walked her dog that day. But maybe kindness is the most honest doorway to love. Not loud, not perfect, just consistent, just real.